MJF and Adam Cole, the title eliminator match, is going to kick things off. And the bell rings. This place is going pretty wild just by ringing the frickin' bell, as MJF had stated last week. And one listener noted this to me because I did not catch it. But did you see that MJF on his elbow pad, which he works in all these lines now that it has become like an Easter egg for his matches? It had the words "Vince was right."
I did not notice, but I mean, good on the several people online who were watching close enough to catch something like that.
They don't miss anything here. MJF was taunting Cole and doing the strut and the hip thrust, and Cole slides across to the floor and gets caught in the ring skirt, and then MJF rams his hand into the steps, and this began MJF systematically breaking down this man's hand and then moving on to the shoulder. And I thought this was a great just isolating the body part by MJF, and Cole doing some terrific selling that we'll get into later. MJF, he's doing the sweet chin music setup out of the corner for Cole, who stops Max with his own super kick in the mouth. And MJF is spitting up this blood, and it was like a fair amount of it. And you're watching this, and like there was enough of it that you're thinking like this has to be like a worked injury, but it played into like there was nothing to play off of, and it was so early in the match that I honestly don't know if he just caught him here or if it was. It seemed as though it was. Because right after, Cole is attacking his face with kicks, but it was nothing that they kind of went back to. It didn't play into any kind of larger story in the match. It was just kind of there early on.
I would just assume, maybe a kick that was a little bit too close to the bone.
Cole is constantly going for the Panama Sunrise, and MJF would always have an answer for it. And it became like the big struggle of Adam Cole to try and hit the Panama Sunrise. And he would snap Cole's arm on the top rope. He ducks the boom and then goes to a double underhook shoulder breaker, just constantly destroying this shoulder. Then he goes for the Panama Sunrise on the edge. It's teased. MJF stops it. He hits a tombstone on the edge. Cole continues to sell, and at one point tries for a punch, but he can't wind up because of the shoulder. I thought this was great. So instead, he's got to rely on super kicks. So he has to use his kicking offense. So MJF drops him with a lariat. At this point, this crowd is just loving this match. They're applauding both guys. We get counters from a crossface to the salt of the earth, Cole to the ankle lock, and then MJF getting a rings of Saturn on the injured shoulder, and Cole having to reach the rope with his foot. So Cole gets placed onto the timekeeper's table, and MJF flies off the top with an elbow drop, and he wants the count out win. Cole beats it at the count of 9. The crowd is just roaring here at Cole coming back. So we get MJF, who does the Eddie Guerrero spot, but with a twist, where Bryce gets knocked down after a roll-up and a kick-out. He gets the belt, tosses it to Cole, and goes down. And everyone realizes the spot. But Bryce, as he's struggling to his feet, he's still injured. So he never sees Cole holding the belt, and the crowd realizes this. And this is like the first time I have seen a new iteration of this spot. It always gets over, but I like the fact that this went from a babyface spot to a heel spot for MJF. And Cole gets to blast him with the title belt. And the crowd was so happy that this turned on MJF, this plan of his.
I suppose it's about time somebody figured out, like the next stage of this particular spot. Why does it happen to work out every single time? What if it doesn't? What would take place?
Yes, a lot of trusting referees that just assume what has happened in front of them, with this belt being the smoking gun. So he lowers the knee pad, hits the boom, and Bryce with the slowest count, and MJF kicks out at 2. He goes for another boom, but MJF slumps down to the mat. And with Bryce turned, Cole gets hit with a low blow, and MJF goes to put his ring on. And as he goes to blast Cole, Bryce catches him with the ring. The place goes nuts. There's a super kick by Cole. He hits the Panama Sunrise. And dude, I'm eyeing that stopwatch, and he hits the boom. And I was like, this is going to be razor thin. And dude, he gets on top of him after the boom. 1, 2, ding, ding, ding. And as my witness of this stopwatch, dude, they hit this thing to the goddamn second.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
the amount of pressure to hit this. And granted, I think crowds will somewhat give people some leniency, but man, dude, on my stopwatch here, not saying it's scientific, they nailed this.
Well,
and this crowd, like, they were deflated, but there was also like the understanding that we saw a goddamn great match, and you're always going to get the boos on a time limit draw, but
you didn't just see a great match, John. You saw an outstanding human feat of timing take place. Okay. And absolutely, like, we are used to, like, like made up times, for any sort of like Royal Rumble or anything like that. This was one where I think they were very aware that there were people like a John Pollock, or people that, are working for a cage match, or people on Wikipedia that are specifically timing these matches. And they made the effort to do it legitimately, going the full 30 seconds and timing this everything up until this, down to the second, so that they could hit this target. And man, they nailed it. It was outstanding. Absolutely.
This match was unbelievable. Like, this would have been one of the better, like a pay-per-view, a high level pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
To me, I think this might have been certainly my favorite AEW match Adam Cole has been in. And
yes.
I think this is just another in the notch for MJF, which it's always funny when he does his press conferences after. And granted, a lot of this, it's the character work of, the people who don't believe I'm a great wrestler. I'm like, who are, like, I don't hear that. I don't see any of that from people. Like, I don't see anyone that he's just a great promo. Like, I don't see any of that. And I haven't for, I cannot remember.
Maybe to start, because maybe he wasn't active enough, or maybe not didn't take part in, enough high profile matches. And I think we've been so accustomed to people being spectacular at one thing and not necessarily having all the tools at such exceptional levels. But he does, like every instance we've seen of him when he gets to have these, pretty long matches, or even sometimes short matches, like, they're memorable, they're incredibly creative and technical. Like, that's one thing, like, this could have been a 30-minute match, but it had chapters. It had, logic in the psychology with the body part targeting, gave you like enough spectacle with, like, the diving elbow and things like that. And most of all, it stuck a really impressive landing that I didn't know was coming. Now, you timed these matches, so maybe in your mind you kind of had an inkling, but they didn't announce the time limit approaching.
No, they didn't do any of the like 10 minutes, and the fact is,
to the benefit of the surprise at the end.
Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons, like in Mid-South or any of these territories, they would do it every match. They'd always give you the time update so that when you are going to do the draw, you're not telegraphing it. And that would have been the case here if all of a sudden they're doing 20 minutes gone, 10 minutes remaining.
Now, telegraphing is good if you don't really have like the intention of like timing something this perfectly, right? Like, sometimes you want to use that drama to build to like, oh, can this guy like hit this move and fit his like count in? Like, you're really ramping the crowd up. Sometimes you're using that sort of anticipation. But here they were going for something different. They were going for shock and surprise, for a near fall that wasn't really supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you've built to a rematch tremendously well.
And so well.
Whenever you're ready to do that. And I guess the question just becomes where that destination is, if this is a TV match or if you're going the long route and this becomes all in or all out even.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a really far away, but I will say, if you're going to like sort of placate the Cole MJF feud for a few months, by stopping it so that we can get through Forbidden Door and then picking it back up later, I couldn't have pictured a better way to shoot Adam Cole up to title contention status than not just a 30-minute time limit draw, but one that was executed so well. He's definitely like at a much higher level coming out of this match than he was prior. So I think now the audience is going to be with him for this chase. He's going to have to climb back up to earn that title shot. And maybe in that time, you might time it out before All Out.
Mm-hmm. All in, and it should be the story of MJF denying him the title shot. You had 30 minutes to beat me. You could not do it. And Cole demands 5 more minutes, but MJF just slides out of the ring. The crowd boos him. Just an excellent match from these two. Certainly match of the week. I think we can state.
Yeah.
at the very least.
Although it depends on like your style of match, because like if somebody were to say they enjoyed the main event more, or even that 8-man more coming out of the show, I wouldn't have a big disagreement.
Well, this was my match of the show for sure. It's that time of the show where we tell you about the Post Wrestling Cafe, the best place to drop your $6 every month for bonus content.
It's a busy week this week. We've got the double shot with our Dark Side of the Ring review. We've got Rewind Away on Thursday, Rewind to SmackDown on Friday, and on Saturday, a brand new show.
It's the launch of our new weekly AEW Collision review with 2 hosts that will be joining me. Go to postwrestlingcafe.com and video.postwrestling.com to subscribe.